They never warned you about this. They told you that assumption shapes reality, that whatever you believe will inevitably manifest. But what if they left something out? What if the very power you've been using to bend reality is also bending you? Assumption isn't just a tool, it's a command. And commands don't just create, they summon. Have you ever wondered why some manifestations backfire? Why some desires seem to twist into something else entirely? What if it's because you're not the only one listening? People think they are in control of their reality, but the truth is far stranger than that. Every assumption sends out a signal, but not all signals go unanswered. Some are received, some are intercepted, and some are redirected. Ever felt like something was pulling the strings behind the scenes? Like no matter how much you affirm, something is interfering with your reality? That's because not all manifestations come from you, and not all of them are meant to be fulfilled. But here's the real question. Are you assuming, or are you being assumed into something far greater? What if your thoughts aren't even yours? What if the reality you're creating is just a piece of something much bigger? Something watching, waiting, feeding off what you assume to be true. The law of assumption is powerful, but power without understanding is dangerous. And if you don't see the full picture, you might be playing a game you never agreed to. They say the law of assumption shapes reality. But what they never told you is that it works in the shadows just as much as in the light. Every thought you assume to be true doesn't just whisper into the universe, it commands it. But what if you're assuming the wrong things? What if your subconscious is secretly sabotaging you, creating a life based not on your conscious desires, but on hidden fears you don't even know exist? The real danger isn't in what you want, it's in what you unknowingly believe. And most people, they're completely blind to it. Have you ever felt stuck in an invisible cycle, as if something is pulling the strings behind the scenes? You try to manifest success, but setbacks appear out of nowhere. You assume love, but find yourself in the same toxic patterns. Why? Because the law of assumption doesn't give you what you ask for, it gives you what you expect. And expectations aren't always conscious. Buried deep within you are programs, beliefs that were implanted by childhood experiences, social conditioning, even past life echoes you've long forgotten. The universe isn't ignoring you. It's obeying an older version of you, one that still believes in struggle, rejection, scarcity. But here's the real question. Who gave you these assumptions? Did you choose them, or were they placed there? And if they weren't yours to begin with, then who or what is really in control? Assumptions aren't just passive thoughts. They are forces, energies that bind you to a reality you may have never consciously chosen. And if you don't break free from the ones that are silently ruling over you, you will continue living a life that isn't truly yours. Reality bends to assumption, but the deeper you go, the stranger it gets. If your thoughts dictate the world around you, then where does free will truly exist? Can others resist the assumptions you impose on them? Or are they just moving pieces in a reality shaped by your beliefs? And if that's the case, what stops someone else from shaping you? The law of assumption is not as simple as it seems, because if reality can be rewritten by belief, then the very nature of control comes into question. What if your life has been moving along a path not because you chose it, but because something or someone assumed it for you? Shifts in reality don't always come from within. Sometimes they are echoes of something much older, a force that has been writing the script of existence long before you even became aware of it. Societal structures, collective consciousness, generational beliefs, they all shape the world just as much as your own assumptions. That's why so many struggle with manifestation. They assume wealth but feel unseen hands pulling them into scarcity. They assume love but find themselves trapped in cycles of abandonment. Could it be that their assumptions are not clashing with random resistance, but with something deliberate, something unseen, yet deeply embedded in the framework of reality itself? What happens when two opposing forces assume different realities? Which one wins? The stronger mind, the deeper belief? Or is there a hidden set of rules that dictates which assumptions are allowed to take hold? If so, who created them? Most people live under the illusion of control, believing their choices are entirely their own. But if assumptions shape reality, and your assumptions were shaped before you ever had a say in them, then how much of your destiny is truly in your hands? Every assumption carries energy, but energy doesn't just disappear. It has to go somewhere. When you assume something repeatedly, you're not just shaping your reality, you're feeding an unseen force that begins to take on a life of its own. These aren't just fleeting thoughts, they become thought forms, energetic entities that exist beyond your conscious mind, feeding on the emotions and intentions that created them. And here's where it gets disturbing. Some of them never leave. They grow, evolve, and in some cases begin controlling the very person who created them. What if your desires aren't just attracting results, but also something else? History is filled with whispers of unseen forces that thrive on human belief. Every ritual, every repeated affirmation, every deeply held assumption contributes to these energetic constructs. In esoteric circles, they call them egregores, collective entities formed by shared thoughts and emotions. Most people assume, affirm, and manifest without realizing that they might be fueling something beyond themselves. A craving for power, an obsession with wealth, a deep fear of failure. If repeated enough times, these energies take shape, demanding more and more of your attention. Ever felt trapped by a desire that once excited you? That's because it may no longer be yours. It may belong to the very thing you created. And here's the real danger. Once a thought form is strong enough, it no longer needs your permission to act. It embeds itself into your subconscious, nudging your emotions, influencing your decisions, even pulling you back into patterns you thought you escaped. Ever wonder why certain manifestations come with unintended consequences? Why success often breeds paranoia? Or why people who manifest love sometimes attract possessiveness, obsession, or betrayal? It's because these unseen forces don't just respond to your assumptions, they feed on them. And if you're not careful, they take over. Changing your self-concept is one of the most powerful ways to reshape reality. But what they never tell you is how dangerous it can be when done recklessly. Every identity shift is an energetic rupture, a breaking away from an old version of you and stepping into something new. But what happens when the shift is too sudden? What happens when you detach so quickly from who you were that you no longer recognize who you are? Most people believe they are leveling up when they change their self-concept. But if done without integration, it can leave you lost, disoriented, trapped between realities. Some who dive into self-concept work experience strange phenomena, memories feeling distorted, old versions of themselves lingering, or an eerie sense of detachment, as if they're watching their life unfold but not fully living in it. The mind needs anchors, a sense of continuity to navigate existence. But if you erase who you were too fast, you might find yourself drifting, unable to connect with your new reality in a way that feels real. Ever noticed how some people manifest rapid success only to sabotage themselves shortly after? It's because their conscious mind shifted, but their subconscious still clings to the past. And when the two are out of sync, reality fractures. And then comes the real danger. What if you assume a new self-concept that isn't authentically yours? What if you start embodying an identity shaped by ego, external influence, or pure desperation? Some chase an ideal version of themselves only to feel emptier than before. They expected fulfillment, but instead, they feel like strangers in their own skin. This isn't just psychology, it's energetic misalignment. If you assume a new reality without fully grounding into it, you're not just changing your mind. You're leaving behind fragments of yourself in places you may never find again. And once that happens, how do you even know which version of you is real? Mastering the law of assumption is intoxicating. The moment you realize that reality bends to belief, it feels like you've cracked the code of existence. But this is where most people fall into the greatest trap of all, the illusion of mastery. Just because you've manifested a few desires doesn't mean you understand the forces you're playing with. And that's exactly when reality strikes back. The moment you believe you've figured it all out, you stop questioning, you stop refining, and worst of all, you stop seeing. And what you don't see, that's where the real danger lies. Arrogance in manifestation leads to stagnation, or worse, collapse. Have you ever noticed how some people rise quickly, only to fall just as fast? They assume wealth, but their energy can't hold it. They assume success, but their subconscious rebels. This isn't just limiting beliefs. This is the universe responding to a mind that thinks it has won the game, but doesn't realize the game never ends. Manifestation isn't a one-time event. It's a continuous, ever-evolving relationship with unseen forces. The moment you assume you have complete control is the moment you lose it. Because true power isn't about forcing reality to obey you. It's about understanding how to move within it. And then comes the part no one expects, spiritual backlash. The universe doesn't punish, but it balances. If your energy isn't aligned with what you assume, reality will start correcting itself. Have you ever had something you manifested suddenly vanish? A dream job that crumbles? A relationship that felt divinely aligned only to shatter overnight? That's not coincidence. It's energetic equilibrium. You can assume anything, but if your internal foundation isn't strong enough to hold it, the very reality you built will crush you under its weight. The question is, will you see the signs before it's too late? Not all assumptions should be entertained. Some thoughts are not yours. Some desires are whispers from something else. The moment you start bending reality, you become visible, not just to opportunities and abundance, but to forces that exist in the spaces you don't see. And here's the terrifying part. The same way you assume things into existence, you can also open doors that are difficult to close. Assumptions create pathways, and if you're not careful, you may unknowingly invite in something that has been waiting for an open door. Most people focus on what they want to manifest, but few ever stop to ask who or what is listening. The unseen world is not empty. Thought forms, entities, energetic parasites, some feed on the projections of the human mind. Ever wonder why certain manifestations come with strange disturbances? The sudden anxiety, the intrusive thoughts, the eerie feeling that something is off, even when things seem to be going right. That's because not all manifestations come freely. Some carry unseen attachments, siphoning energy from the very person who created them. If you don't learn how to protect your assumptions, you may not be the only one benefiting from them. But here's what no one tells you. Protection isn't just about shielding, it's about discernment. Not every desire should be pursued. Not every thought should be assumed into reality. The real power isn't in how much you can manifest, but in what you choose to assume. The strongest minds aren't those who assume without limits, but those who know which assumptions to reject. Because once you realize that thoughts are not just thoughts, that assumptions are not just personal beliefs, you start to see reality for what it truly is. A game of energy, influence, and unseen forces that most will never understand. So tell me, how much of your reality have you truly created? And how much of it has been shaped for you by energies, entities, or unseen currents of consciousness that most people will never wake up to? If you've been assuming blindly, it's time to wake up. Because the truth is, not all realities should be manifested, and not all thoughts should be assumed into existence. Now, the real question is, can you see the patterns before they consume you?